All right, I'm going to go ahead and call our town council meeting to order for April 8, 2025. Roll call, please.
Greg Brewer.
Here.
Brian Burney.
Here.
Chad Gooding.
Here.
Scott Jones.
Here.
John Price.
Here. All right. If you'll stand with me and say the Pledge of Allegiance and then continue standing afterwards, I'd appreciate it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just want to take a moment of silence here for one of our town founders. Thomas Sylvie passed away recently. He was the first town council president, was very instrumental in getting the town incorporated back in the day. So if you guys would just give me a moment of silence, I appreciate it, and then we'll go on. Thank you. All right, be seated. All right. First order of business is approval of our minutes. Both an executive session on March 27th as well as the minutes for March 11th.
I move we approve the minutes of March 11th. Second.
It's been a first and second to approve the March 11th town council minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
I can't vote on this one.
No, you cannot.
I move we approve the minutes of the executive meeting.
Second.
It's been a first and second to approve the minutes from our executive session on March 27, 2025. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. All right. Public comments for any non-agenda items. If you have anything that's not on the agenda that you'd like to bring to our attention, this is the time to do it. Anybody? Okay. Guess you're making life easy for me tonight. We're going to skip, if we can. Prosecutor Eaton is on his way. We will accommodate him when he shows up. I'm not sure if Aiden Horgan with the Coalition Against Bigger Trucks is available. He is. Great.
Hey.
Can you hear us, Aiden?
I can, yes, hello.
All right. The floor is yours.
Okay, great. Well, hello, McCordsville. My name is Aiden. I'm with Coalition Against Bigger Trucks. I really appreciate you welcoming me here tonight. I sent a resolution over to President Brewer that pretty much encompasses the purpose of my visit tonight. So I guess just to step back and give a very succinct review, the Coalition Against Bigger Trucks is the organization I'm with. We are completely dedicated to opposing legislation that would increase the size and the weight of semi-trucks. There's about 3,000 individuals and associations in the coalition from across the country. In Indiana, the Sheriff's Association, the Police Chiefs Association, the county engineers, just to name a few, are very vocal voices in our coalition and have been supporting us for a long time. On the other side is the Shippers Coalition, and their entire goal is to increase the size and weight of semi-trucks. The two main proposals that are being brought forth are increasing the federal weight limit from 80,000 pounds to 91,000 pounds. The other proposal is to increase the size of twin trailer trucks from 28 feet each, from twin 28s to double 33s. That would be a 10-foot increase in size from the current twin trailer trucks. It would be 17 feet longer than the single trailer trucks. And these two proposals that are being brought forth, they've been studied before and analyzed by the US DOT. And their ultimate conclusion from their study was to not raise the size and weight of semi-trucks. The costs outweigh the benefits. So there's a lot of ways that this affects McCordsville. From my meeting with President Brewer, it sounds like the community has taken their own steps to address this problem and trying to address the truck traffic that comes through town. And essentially, the purpose of the visit and this meeting is to encourage you all to pass this resolution and to send it to members of Congress in Indiana, encouraging them to oppose legislation that would increase the size and the weight of semi-trucks. And President Brewer, I'm not sure if there's a Q&A or if there's any back and forth that you'd like me to go through, but
Yeah, we'll
I
open
don't know
up
if that's
for,
kind of what you were looking for.
if you don't mind, we'll open up for questions. Any councilman, I will say, I noticed in the Greenfield Daily Reporter, the county commissioners sending a letter in support of the CABT
Yep.
to Senator Young and Senator Banks, as well as several congressmen and state legislatures. So this is not something that's just unique, I don't think, to McCordsville, but I think it's a county issue. So just, I know this group has been active in our area talking to other elected officials, and I know the county commissioners took action recently at their meeting on this, if I'm correct.
Yep, that's correct.
All right.
And there's many others, local leaders from around the area that have done the same thing.
Any questions for Aiden?
Aiden, you mentioned that this was something that was maybe approved federally. So I'd just be
Yes.
curious to, like, surrounding states, if their entities tend to be for or against this. Because my only concern would be, like, say, trade coming in from Ohio or Illinois, Michigan, Kentucky, etc. Does it increase cost of goods for residents in Indiana?
No, so I'll tell you this, a lot of those surrounding states, many of the similar statewide organizations that I mentioned, the chiefs of police, AAA, county engineers, EMS responders, and so on. There's plenty of other local leaders from basically every local leader that's touched by this issue or who appreciates, the costs and dangers of this proposal, are in the coalition, have been loud vocal supporters of this. So you definitely will be joining a lot of communities in surrounding states, and they absolutely appreciate, just kind of what you're touching on. What's the other end of this? Is there a proposal to increase, the cost for consumers? And I don't believe that's the case at all. This would be keeping the status quo where it is what we're talking about. So this would not be increasing costs for consumers in any way. And essentially, these corporations that are kind of pushing for this, it's really just for their bottom line.
Sure.
The actual cost of consumers I would be concerned about the tax burden on local taxpayers and citizens of Indiana. If the weight of the semi-trucks goes up nationally, being the crossroads of America, that would acutely affect Indiana, including the infrastructure costs throughout the state, which is already facing a ton of challenges. Indiana is already facing a shortfall in funding, and this would only increase those costs. And those costs would ultimately be put on, the taxpayers, local bridges, local roads, and so on.
Hey, Mark, question for you. I mean, going from 80,000 pounds to 90,000, how would our infrastructure hold up with that kind of increase, do you think?
Well, obviously the construction of all the roads in the United States were geared with the current limits in mind. It's not to say that the infrastructure wouldn't be capable of handling the higher, but making an adjustment would obviously be putting a greater weight on roads that weren't initially designed for them.
And to get it, so if that weight limit was increased and we were to revamp or redo a road or anything, or would we see a significant increase in cost to be able to handle that weight? Or
there would be what would be involved is we would modify what our future pavement sections would be, and we may see a quicker deterioration of our existing infrastructure.
okay,
I think another thing too is you add another 10 feet to trailers as they're making turns inside of municipalities. I mean, sometimes there's barely enough clearance for like a 53-footer to make a turn, so.
I mean, obviously, whether we're for it or against it does not really matter as much in the grand scheme of things. Federal government will do what the federal government wants to do, but I think, I always got to look at it from the standpoint of the taxpayer and what do we want heavier, larger trucks going through the center of our town, and I don't think that's something we would really want to support. I mean, if the federal government says they're allowed to do it, they're allowed to do it. We'll have to adjust, but I don't think we need to be a cheerleader for those increases. That's just my opinion. Any other questions for Aiden or any discussion on the resolution? Okay. Well, Aiden, I appreciate you taking time to make us aware. And again, this, obviously your group's been doing a good enough job educating because county commissioners were all for this recently. So we'll take the resolution under discussion. Appreciate it.
Thank you all so much. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anytime, anybody against or for this resolution, if you'd like to speak for it before we take action, this is the time. All right. Any motion?
I'll
More
make
discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 040825.
Second.
It's been a first and second to approve resolution number 040825. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay. Well, darn it, I lost my agenda. There we go. Okay, so we've done that. We'll come back. We'll get into committee and staff reports, and then we'll adjust as Prosecutor Eaton gets there. Redevelopment Commission. We did meet, and we were presented by Bond Raid. Do we have a representative tonight? They're not coming. Okay, so they just presented their annual report to the, which is required by state statute, to the RDC. They are supposed to have it filed by next week. I think they 15th. Have they already filed it? Do you know? It's been filed?
I emailed today to see if it had been uploaded so I could submit it, but it has not.
Okay. All right. So we're still waiting on that. And really, there's no action that the council needs to take other than the fact that we've been aware that the annual report has been presented to the RDC. And that was pretty much it. And there's some discussion on the patch project. And I think they'll be coming to us next month with finances.
I believe next month, correct?
Okay, financing discussion. Okay. So that's RDC. Next up, Vernon. That's me again, Vernon Township Fire Committee. We did meet. We had our annual EMS med bill, which is the collection agency report and projections for 2025, and went over that. So, and also the first meeting and formation of a merit board for the firefighters. So that was accomplished. All right. Metropolitan Police Board.
Yep, Metropolitan Police Board did meet. Officer Carter was promoted to sergeant. We approved several Lexipool updates, which those are coming almost on a monthly basis. The range is almost ready as soon as the HVAC repairs are completed. They're still finishing a few touches on the police station itself.
Okay.
Officer Barnes and Officer Trejo have been running training classes inside of the department. We do have a couple of officers that are currently in the onboarding process. And just a reminder to everybody that Community Day will be August 15th.
Great. Thank you.
Scott, I noticed the electric charges decreased from what they were. Do you have any insight into that?
I do not.
When they got the bill, of course, it went from like mid-5s to mid-3s. I'm not really sure why that's occurred. I'm not seeing a decrease in the demand charge or those types of items on the actual bill itself, so I really can't explain it.
Is the engineer proceeding with tuning up the building?
The HVAC people are deemed, yes. They got the contract for that, and they're doing that in the background, logging in remotely and adjusting handlers and dampers and things like that to hopefully not have the pressurized atmosphere that we have. So I don't know if that's played a part in it or not. Pretty substantial decrease, though, over 2 months.
Yes, it is.
Like decreases.
Quite a bit cooler or warmer too.
Yeah.
All right. Public Works Commission.
Yep, Public Works met as well. We did a bid opening, which was strictly just an opening for the landscaping for the roundabout at 500 North and 600. hired 5 new employees in the last month. 3 of them were backfill positions, 2 of them are new as Public Works continues to grow. We had a stop sign request at Cooper Lane in Brookview. We approved to recommend it to council. There was some discussion on whether or not it was justified, but that neighborhood is continuously growing.
Mhm.
And if we don't approve it now, we're going to approve it next year, so we might as well put it in. It's a pretty long straightaway. We had a proposal from Waypoint Strategies to inventory our plant and lift stations, which is replicating very similar to what we're doing with the police station, community center, and town hall here. And that's on our consent agenda this evening. Approved a invoice to repair and replace a pump. And then we approved the purchase of a new mower, which we chose the lowest bid.
Okay.
Last thing on that, if I could jump in there, is we do have a contract for that landscape, the roundabout landscaping on the agenda, and that does need authorization for President Brewer to sign.
Can we have a rundown of what that landscaping is going to consist of?
Can you go? Yeah. So this is the bid tabulation. Mainly, it's a landscape contract that includes stone foundation walls and lighting for signage and irrigation for the center island and medians. So I did review the bids. Wild Ridge was the low bidder. That amount, the $186,070, is within the budget. The budget we planned for this project was $230,000, so we are within that. There was a fair spread on these bids, but I do recommend that we award to Wild Ridge, and the contract is also attached to the agenda.
Do we have foliage on there that's going to require maintenance and mowing, or what? Or is that mostly masonry and rock, or what's going on there?
Go ahead.
Yeah, there will absolutely be some maintenance. Today, it's a 100% grass island that requires maintenance. As this is outfitted, we will reduce the amount of mowing, but we will increase the number of plantings within the roundabout circle. So yes, there will absolutely be some maintenance that we have accounted for with our public works staff up.
And then there's a big discrepancy in cost on signage. What's the signage consist of?
They are metal letters that are attached to some cut masonry that would be illuminated. We had the same concern, Dr. Burney, is why is that number so low? As we get further into this, we'll get shop drawings on those items, and we'll review that. And if we don't feel it's meeting what we need, we'll be able to have a chance to request those changes. That would be a change order at that point in time, but we are so far under the second bid and so far under budget, it doesn't really concern us at this point in time.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? I'll entertain a motion to authorization to sign or not sign.
I move we authorize President Brewer to sign the landscaping contract with the low bidder.
Second.
It's been a first and second to authorize President Brewer to sign the agreement between owner contractor and Wild Ridge Lawn and Landscape. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay. At this time, we're going to take a brief pause in our committee reports, and Prosecutor Eaton is here. He wants to come up and give an annual report, so Prosecutor. Appreciate it.
And I think I need to get all the form. I want to make sure I gave you a paper copy. Again, Greg, thanks for working me in. I'm sorry we got tangled up a little bit.
Wheels of justice, right? You're always.
No, I'll tell you, we had hoped to have some help. Over here.
Yep.
We had hoped to have some help from our friends in Cook County on something we're working on, and they said that they were really going to help us until it came to the part where they actually were going to help us after we did all the stuff we're supposed to do to have them help us, and then they said we can no longer help you. And so that's a little bit of a problem that we were working on, and we'll continue to work on to see that we do what we're supposed to do for the people of Hancock County. I appreciate the time. I appreciate the audience. I will do my best to be efficient with your time. But at any time, if there's questions now or issues you wish to bring up later, let me know. I'd be happy to pass along my cell phone number to you, and then we can talk about those things if it's something that you want to talk about later. My starting place is this, is the prosecutor works for everybody in the county. And if I were you folks up here, I'd wonder, what in the world are those people down in Greenfield doing? And that would be something that I would wonder. And one of the things that I've learned over my time is that the justice system, which I'm broadly speaking of, your police, your courts, your probation officers, your community corrections, your prosecutor's office, your sheriff's department, jail personnel, has to be collectively the largest line item in the county's budget overall. And one of the things that's really bothered me for a long time is, well, everyone kind of has some idea about these things individually, but there's not a very clear idea. What is our money we spend on these things actually buying us to people that live in Hancock County? And that's something I've tried to answer to the best of my ability with this report. And I want to answer it because everything in all those places intersects at the prosecutor's office. And so we're at the center of all of those things with the courts, probation, the jail, all of our local law enforcement agencies. And so that's perspective I'm trying to add. And like I said, if people have questions at any time now, ask me. Otherwise, I'd be happy to pass my information along to be asked at a later time. First and foremost, as far as the prosecutor's office itself, we have 27 full-time employees. We have 9 lawyers. According to our state organization, what we are supposed to have for a county of our size with a caseload would be 12, and we're supposed to have about 3 more paralegals. I mean, to make it efficient, we're staffed about 75 to 80% of what it is that the state says we should be, which is a bit of a challenge sometimes because the work doesn't stop and the expectations for our performance are high. And so as a result of that, we calculated out that collectively as an office with those people, we had 2,368 hours of overtime that we put in last year, over and beyond kind of the hours that you would have for regular accounting employees. Of that, the vast majority of it, 1,700 and some odd hours, were from employees that are exempt, so they don't really claim the overtime. It's just stuff that you do. And you do because, like Paul's people, you do it because you care, because things have to be done. They have to be done right. And sometimes that's just the way that it goes. The other side of it, probably like Paul would know too, you only go back to well so much and people start to wear out. And so we're trying to work with, the county to get us a little bit closer to what it is that the state wants us to have. That's an ongoing process. We do have a 24/7 on-call number, so we're available to assist law enforcement 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We do maintain an online portal with information for law enforcement officers in the field to try to help them with updates of case law or other forms or information which is available at their fingertips to try to make our information as user-friendly as possible. Digging into some of the stats, we filed overall 1,877 different criminal cases, different criminal cause numbers last year. That comes out to be just about 91.2% of the overall cases referred to us. So the way it works is the police refer us stuff, we look at it, either we're going to file it or we're not going to file it, or we say, get us some more information and maybe we'll file it. And that's kind of the calculus that gets done every day. We get cases literally every day of the year. And we've had 1,877 of them that we did file for the percentage I mentioned. I do think it's noteworthy is that, especially in some of our victim cases, what we've tried to do now to make things work more efficiently is instead of filing, maybe if we have a serial predator, instead of filing maybe 10 separate cases on this person, we'll file one cause number, but then have each of the victims part of that one cause number, because that allows us to try to keep that case in one court. It allows us to try to maybe consolidate the dates some to save time and, for the victims to not have to come in multiple times. And it strategically creates a little bit better leverage situation for the case itself as it works through the system. So we try to do things like that. We had a case last year, which is pretty near and dear to my heart, where we had one particular defendant that committed invasion of privacy we charged it like 104 times, okay? We did not charge 104 cases. We charged under one cost number. We had 112 counts on that particular case. And we could have done it differently, but by doing it that way, we thought it would serve judicial economy, and also, hopefully, if by the time the jury heard the 103rd charge, maybe they begin to see things our way, which they did. We filed 2,200 traffic infractions, 343 separate search warrants, 67 separate juvenile cases, and 31 prosecutor subpoenas. We do also have a civil division. The civil division largely is child support, and so people may not know, one of the functions our office has is to collect child support on open child support orders. There's different metrics that the state uses and that the federal government uses to measure our effectiveness. On all measures that are utilized, we had 100% rating, which is pretty hard to improve upon, so we felt pretty good about that. There's more than 1,100 of those open cases, and so we maintain a staff, to litigate those things, to establish the orders, potentially to litigate, any issues that may come up in the civil realm. So it's something we're responsible for on a weekly basis. And our total collections on those types of cases last year were $3.9 million. This year, we're really excited. We were up about 6.5% in our collections for the first quarter of 2025. We really want to get past that $4 million mark in overall collections for the people in our community. Something we've made a big focus on is victim services. Oftentimes, you don't just have a prosecutor's office push paper around. Ultimately, why you have a prosecutor is, well, there's people, that may be victims of crime that need someone or someones to bring really a voice to them in the courtroom, so that whomever it is that may be, the perpetrator will receive the justice they deserve. And that's really the most sacred thing that a prosecutor's office can do, is to give a voice to those people that really need it, specifically people that may be victims of sex crimes or children that are victims of abuse or neglect. And we've made a real push and a real effort to dedicate resources to make sure that crime victims are well informed about what it is that's happening in the case, because oddly enough, if you file a case and you don't talk to them for 6 or 8 months and then say, hey, come to court next Tuesday, your odds are going to be very good. Because you're just going to lose track of them, and they're not going to have confidence in you. And so we've really pushed to establish rapport with people. We have 2 people full-time that work with victims. Last year, we counted it up, they had 15,000 independent victim contacts. What that means is in-person meetings, phone calls, emails, or letters that we keep track of. So they contacted victims more than 15,000 separate times between our 2 people. And there were more than 910 independent crime victims in Hancock County that had contact with those people in our office. I just can't say enough good things about our victim assistance people and the empathy and the compassion they really show to help, making sure everybody's voice is heard to the best of their ability. And I'm really, really, really fortunate to work with them. And they do a tremendous job. Sometimes people can't meet with them during the week because they work, right? So they'll come in on the weekend, they'll stay late at night, they'll do whatever they possibly can to make sure that people's voices are heard. There's a lot of those overtime hours go to those people, Paul, and I worry about them because they're so compassionate for everybody, but sometimes we worry about them taking care of themselves, There's quite a few things we do outside of the courtroom to help make the system work effectively. I think sometimes those things get overlooked in all of the numbers. There is a child advocacy center here in the community, and its most basic function is to interview those children that may be victims of abuse or neglect. So maybe, something bad happened in the home, and we're going to look further to see, well, in addition to maybe there being some domestic violence, was there something else here? And so we're going to interview the child over at Zoe's place. Or in the alternative, maybe there's a direct concern that there's, maybe there's some bruising on a child or some other allegation on a child. We're going to see, to the best of the ability that can be done, it was always, we're going to look into it to find out everything we can to try to maximize the possibility that there is something going on, we can intervene and keep the child safe. Zoe's Place is an independent organization. It's not legally affiliated with the prosecutor's office. It's its own 501c3. It's independent. But one of the things that does happen when they have these interviews, we go over and we'll often communicate with the interviewer or with law enforcement to look at which direction this investigation is going to go, what is it we can do, or what is it we can possibly look at to see if there's either going to be a criminal case or potentially intervention from, you know, the civil side. There were 197 of those interviews last year, which is an increase of about 90% from what they were the year before. Each one of those interviews, you know, takes 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours. It came out to be about an extra 600 hours of prosecutor time spent at those interviews, which seems like a lot. But the other side of it is that we're really casting a broad net to see that if there is something happening, we can catch it, we can detect it early, and then maybe we can intervene in such a way as to not allow a situation to become worse. There's a series of meetings and things that are established with that. There's got to be coordination with law enforcement and child services to see that the center works effectively. Our office also is part of the behavioral health court program, the drug court program, which are problem-solving courts which really work hard to see that those people that may have mental health problems or heavy substance abuse problems are able to receive the help and support they need within the confines of the justice system. These are post-conviction courts, so these are places where people have been convicted of their crime, but instead of maybe being in the traditional probation sense, maybe what we're going to do is send them directly to a rehabilitation center like Progress House or Dove House for 180 days, and then drug screen them every other day for a couple months and really keep close tabs on them. We've had pretty good success with these, with taking people that really are extraordinarily high risk for reoffense and reducing recidivism significantly and getting a fair number of these people back in the workforce and reunited with their families. Not every case is a success, but it's certainly, of the choices we have, there are times when it really does help protect the public, because those people, if they're sober, can be relatively effective and relatively productive members of society. And so the level of supervision in these programs, I think, really contributes to our ability to be successful there. I'm sure Paul's very favorite thing is the office hours, where usually it'll be, some of our deputy prosecutors will come and they'll present themselves for a couple hours about every 6 or 8 weeks at all of the different agencies around the county to be there and to answer questions, sometimes hear complaints, and find ways for us to work better. I'm really grateful for the leadership of Chief Casey in making some of the space available to help us here. I know you've been very generous, Paul. We appreciate it. And really, communication, there's just so many things in law enforcement and the law that you just can't have very quick conversations about. And that rapport and that trust, I think, goes a long way towards helping us work more effectively together. There's a series of other initiatives that are laid out there. I'm not going to go into in detail other than just to generally say that a lot of these, like the sexual assault response team, the child fatality review team, are things that are statutorily mandated. And so there's things that the state has mandated that we do. And so we want to do them to the best of our ability to see that we serve those people we're supposed to serve well. Something else we do, when I originally became prosecutor, one of the things I heard a lot of is there was an appetite for more training. The law changes a lot, things change frequently. And last year, we did have quite a few trainings that we partnered with, different agencies from the state and federal level and brought them out to our county. We had liaison training with the U.S. Attorney's Office, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, Indiana State Police, and IMPD for a firearm liaison training, which is really a project I'm really excited about. Something that I've noticed, and again, Paul, I keep picking on you, but I know you've noticed it too. In the last 5 to 7 years, we've noticed really a lot more people that are felons with handguns in their vehicles. And this is something that, has become a lot more common, especially after COVID, than what it was before. And that's just the world that we live in. That's where we're at. And the thing would always happen is pull the car over, and I don't have a license, and then it's not my car. Maybe it's my girlfriend's car or my buddy's car, and the gun's under the seat, right? That's always what happens. And then you find I'm a felon, and then you say, well, is that your firearm? Well, I've never seen that firearm. Well, what are you talking about, right? Because it's my friend's car. And those cases would be difficult to prove. As a law enforcement officer, we think, well, yeah, of course we know it's your firearm because this is what we can see under criminal history, and it very likely is. But simultaneously, maybe it's not registered to them. They can say, I just got in the car 5 minutes ago. Their buddy's going to agree with them. It becomes very difficult to prove the case. And so that's a bit of a problem to hold those people accountable in an appropriate way. a lot of these people would be what we would call serious violent felons. They're called serious violent felons for a reason, is they're not supposed to have these firearms, and the penalties for that in Indiana are relatively harsh. We noticed we're having trouble with those, so we worked with IMPD and the U.S. Attorney's Office to bring a program out here to where we would then be able to get DNA off the gun pretty much at the scene or within 24 hours. And then we begin to, okay, well, now we have DNA on the guns. Is there anything you want to tell us? And that's really been remarkably effective. Sometimes it takes time to get the DNA back. We get the samples. I can't say enough nice things about the State Police, IMPD, and the U.S. Attorney's Office for helping all of us here in our county to work on evidence collection, to know the best practices for those things. That was really a significant investment of time they did generously for us. I think it's helped us quite a bit. And as a result of that, in the last 6 months, as some of these trials have begun to cycle up, we've noticed that we've begun to receive harsher sentences for those types of cases and those types of crimes, which I think is really going to benefit public safety in the long run. And it took buy-in from all of our agencies and from some of our partners at the state and federal level to do that. And I'm really proud now that it seems like we're really starting to bear fruit and have positive results there. There's some other trainings there. I highlighted the domestic violence training, some other things. We had the U.S. Attorney's Office out again. We had people from the Law Enforcement Academy out to do some training about search warrants back in the fall. We're just really, I suppose, as prosecutor's office, happy and proud to be a liaison between these resources and try to bring those things to law enforcement here to the officers to see for no cost. And so, I know sometimes Paul and I will disagree about stuff, but you probably don't mind having free training sometimes. That's probably okay. And we always want to find ways, to try to make things better. I know the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy training we have is really valuable for us because there's a lot about search warrants. A lot of the case law and stuff on search warrants is evolving pretty quickly. And that allowed us to come up with some forms and stuff that we can use and utilize, which we then put into the online portal, which now officers for different situations could get online and have a form to use pretty quickly. And so we can generate high quality warrants pretty quickly and effectively 24/7, 365. We had a lot of trials last year too. We tend to have a lot of trials. We had 121 trials of all types last year. Of those, we had 113 guilty verdicts, 6 not guilty, 1 mistrial, and 1 not guilty by reason of insanity. Overall conviction rate on those trials was 93%. We always want to find ways to get better. If you find a lawyer who says he's not trying to find a way to get better, he's probably not much of a lawyer. At the end of the cases that you win, there's always things that you can go back and look at. But I'm very, very proud of the team we have and the hard work they put in. And they really do it because they're good people. They care about the agencies. They care about the people out here. They want to do a good job. And as the leader of the organization, for the longest time, it really has deeply bothered me that people don't have any idea what we do at the prosecutor's office. It's just some office, there's some lawyers sitting around, whatever they're doing. And just knowing and having a little bit of a window as to the massive amount of investment that our community makes in public safety, I really am grateful for this opportunity to kind of share with you a little bit of what it is this system is producing. I appreciate the audience. I appreciate the time. I'm happy to answer questions now or to share, my phone number and answer questions later. Yes.
On your individual trials of note, there's a term that I don't know what it means. Perhaps you can explain it. What is jury nullification?
Well, that was my very favorite. That was Dewan Durrett, okay? I remember that trial very clearly. And what it was is jury nullification is the jury basically, they said he was not guilty because they thought he did all the stuff that would have made him guilty, but they just didn't want to convict him. We made all the elements of the case, okay? And it had to do with it was a fleeing law enforcement case. It was a level 6 felony. He wouldn't pull over. He didn't pull over for, I don't know, like a mile or whatever it was, okay? So it wasn't like terrible, but he wouldn't pull over. It was on video. I was in there, all right? And, it's alleged it's a felony, and they said, well, he just shouldn't be convicted of a felony, even though he did all of this stuff. And so jury nullification essentially means that the jury refused to follow the law. That's what it means. They didn't want to convict him of a felony for what he did.
All right, thanks. I didn't know what that was. And
I wasn't very happy about it, but that's
It hurts your stats. Yeah.
I have one other question.
Well, and it was a full day we wasted on that trial too. Anyway, yeah.
You were in a historic building on the courthouse square, and it had some issues, and you had to move your offices quickly. And how did that turn out? I kind of lost track of it. Where are you now, and how was that resolved?
Thank you for remembering. For those that aren't aware, back, it was October 26, 2022, they began some renovations in the bathroom area of 27 American Legion Place, the former Hancock County Jail. It was the jail in like 1986, and from 1886 to like 1986. I don't know if you ever worked in there or not, Paul. Okay. It was jail like 100 years ago, and it became the prosecutor's office. There's no way to make it short. As a result of the construction, air quality quickly began to deteriorate to the point to where the office became uninhabitable within a matter of hours from the initiation of construction. And so we had to evacuate the office in its entirety. I don't know, construction started about 10 a.m. and everybody's out of there by 1:30. And, at 11:30 it was doing pretty bad. I told everybody to go to lunch, and I hope magical thinking would make it better, and it's magically get better over lunch. And I came back and it really kind of wasn't. And so I told everybody, okay, grab everything you think you need, grab all your computers, grab your stuff. The air quality was so bad it was a health danger. So he said, okay, get out now. And we found that there was, what's commonly called black mold. The building was rendered uninhabitable. And we were without a building from October 26th until approximately December 15th. We did not have any space. And so we sent some people like in jury rooms, we had some people in hallways, we had some people at the public library down in Greenfield, we had some people in the conference room at the auditor's office. It was so bad, okay? But the people that we worked with did great. They kept cases filed, we kept rolling as best we could. And we relocated to the Community Corrections building. Community Corrections is work release, home detention, so they kicked them out and moved us in. And that building's work release is like a jail. Okay, so there's like a front third, which is like an office, and the back third, like literally, it's like a jail. There's like prisoner showers and all the stuff like a jail would have. And they put us in the front third, and famous last words was, and if you guys can hold out here for about 6 months, by May of 23, we're going to start renovations, and then we're going to be, you guys will be A-okay. And so renovations haven't started yet. and a lot of the ad hoc solutions that you do when you think they'll be short term that you can live with, we've managed to survive with now for the better part of two plus years. Rumor is the construction is supposed to start as soon as the end of this week or first of next week. I have been in touch with the builders, and that's what they're telling me. We'll see. But it's really, honestly, Brian, it's been a real challenge. It's been a real challenge because we've got people on top of each other. You've got a lot of challenges that come with that, just too many people in too small a space. And it really is a testament to the people at the office that they've been willing to tolerate that for as long as they've had. They've been good soldiers. They've gone and they've done what they're supposed to do and continue to perform at a very high level in less than ideal conditions, which really I think is sometimes I have people ask me how I like my new office because they don't notice what a difficult thing it's been, and that's really the highest compliment we could possibly get, is that people don't know and don't necessarily notice all of the things that have gone wrong. In the next few months, they're going to be hopefully doing that construction. It'll probably get worse before it gets better, but we'll manage to get through. I've got a great chief deputy. She's very resourceful and very smart, and together we are a good team that will do everything we can to continue to provide services uninterrupted for our county the best we possibly can. There's really not a choice.
Hey, Brian, I got a couple questions for you.
Yes.
About 4 years ago, Chief, we significantly invested in body-worn cameras. 5 years ago. Do you know of any grants, or has the county ever looked at providing, trying to do a lump sum funding, kind of like the 911 did for radios recently, and providing all communities with those? And number two, 3 years ago, I think we got the RDs.
Can I get the first one first?
Well, no, you get two questions. I'm going to make you think on this. Second is, same question, is there funding on flocks? Because we invested about 3 years ago with RDC and the police, 4 years ago.
Flock's been a minute.
It's been 5 years, so we've paid all.
We're on second contract.
Okay, so do you know of any other, I mean, I think we have 5 in the town,
5 or 6.
5 or 6. A, do you know of any funding where we can find more? And B, how impactful are those been for the prosecutor's office?
Well, I'll answer them in inverse order.
Good.
As to the flocks, I would suggest all inquiries be directed to Sheriff Brad Burkhart.
Okay.
Brad was really the driving force behind the installation of the flocks. I don't know where Brad financed it, how he did. I do know, I mean, when I first learned of him, it was in one of those law enforcement meetings we have, and it very quickly impressed us in the meeting, and it's a tremendous tool. It's a tremendous tool for investigators. It really helps us. There's a significant case we're working actually that's in this relative area of the county, and trying to figure out people's entrance and egress and when they are where is something with those is really, really helpful. It's a tremendous tool to help find people that you're looking for. I think that it's sometimes, there's folks that we may not be able to have found if it wasn't for the flock tool, and it's something that provides, because you get people, a lot of our criminal activity comes from outside the county, right? So they're not like living here in McCordsville or New Palestine, they're living somewhere else and they're coming over here and doing stuff. And so therefore, it's nice to know when that car got here, when it left, who, what. It's really, really tremendous because it really helps us to make identification on things. And so, if it's your property or your home, that's the one that's, burglarized, you can't put a price on it because it really helps us to generate leads in a very, very significant way. As for body worn, I would check with maybe, again, and I hate to be a cop, I'd check maybe Brad or potentially the city of Greenfield. I know Jeff was the police chief down in Greenfield when they got those. Jeff's no longer there, but I think in the back of my head there was something where maybe they had done something to get those things, but I check with those municipalities as to places. I'm sorry, I can't be better than that.
I just, as we continue to grow and our boundaries grow, and we are a borderline, border the county, Marion County, do we need to make more of an investment and strategically place those?
They're
like
great.
You said,
They're great.
To be able to document who's coming in, who's coming out.
I really like them a lot.
Okay, that's what I needed to hear. All right, so you like them a lot. All right.
They really like them a lot, but like for the reason I said, it is a lot of our people that are committing very serious crimes, by and large, usually those are not homegrown. Usually those are people that are coming to our county from somewhere else. Well, it's really helpful to generate leads if we can figure out, we start getting ideas, and then we can figure out who it is, and then we figure out how they got here, and figure out when they were here, and then you can maybe even figure out, well, they were here a couple of days before, and all these different things, and your case begins to come together. There's a few that are worked on right now that those have really been very helpful tools. Right. They're so helpful, I think sometimes the people doing those things are frankly very concerned about the ability that they have, and it can serve as a deterrent because people don't want to be on the video because they know it's there.
Well, that's kind of my concern. So we put them in 5 years ago. We only have 5 or 6. Do we need to, as a council, look in the future to increase those numbers, especially along the border between our town and Marion County, as we can continue to grow?
I'd certainly be in favor of it, but I don't have to pay for it.
I know. Well,
as far as the body cam, honestly, those are great. Those are really wonderful. Yeah, I think that they can be very helpful for law enforcement officers, especially in the transport phase of things, to prevent any allegations against them. And, in the world we live in, it's really a great tool to protect them. And if people make allegations against them, well, now we can see it all. You can see it all very quickly. We've been very fortunate here in McCordsville. We've not had these things, but I can tell you that when there's ever like a use of force incident, if you get into something like that, which is very serious, those body cams are a tremendous tool because you can see things in real time. You can break it down almost by the second, and you don't have to guess, right? You can see things, and that really helps you to make well-informed decisions. And so they're great because they help you see what's happened. They help you see, if there's a particular crime or a traffic stop or whatever. It's great for those reasons. But also, for much more serious reasons, if there is ever something or a significant use of force incident, when you have those body cams, it takes a lot of the guesswork out and can really be of tremendous value to protect, law enforcement when they're doing a great job.
Any other questions? Prosecutor, appreciate your time and thanks for the report. And you're welcome back anytime.
I really appreciate your time. Again, if you all have questions at a future date. It really is important to me to try to be transparent and to make sure people have some idea what it is that your money is buying. And so I know Greg's got my phone number. If anybody up there or in the office or in the room here has questions, get to Greg. Greg will pass it along,
Yep.
and I'll do my best to get back to you promptly. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, back to our committee and staff reports. Was Public Works, I think we were done. We
We're
did
done
that.
with-
Architectural Review Committee.
Architectural Review Committee met on Tuesday, March 18th at 5:30 PM. Had really 6 items of new business, no old business. First was Drees Homes' request for approval of a product line for Area E of Colonnade. You may recall that as we went farther south from McCord Square, the product lineup in Colonnade changed from Area A, closest to McCord Square, to Area E, furthest south from McCord Square, and Area E was the largest lots and the highest architectural standards for Colonnade. And we had, first we had Pyatt Homes was going to do that. They were bought by Taylor Morrison, I think, and now Taylor Morrison, I think, has declined, I guess, to build in Area E of Colonnade, something like that. And Drees has now picked up, I guess, the right to build in Area E, and this was their request for a product lineup. And I guess the committee was not favorably impressed with what they presented, and they'll be returning in April with hopefully some improvements. One thing in particular was they didn't have enough elevations presented to even meet the standards to have the separate elevations for each lot of only about, I think there's 12 or 13 lots across there. Second item was McCordsville's request for a recommendation on exterior design of the community center at 7580 Form Street, and that was approved as submitted. We had Store America's request for approval of exterior design for storage buildings near the southeast corner of West Broadway and County Road 750 North. That discussion ended with lots of masonry in the form of brick being added to those buildings. We had Michelle Miller and Lisa Gamble's request for a recommendation on exterior design of the Ignite Ultra Lounge at 6383 Broadway, which is very close to our where our community center will eventually build out to on Pendleton Pike. And that's kind of a pole building, pole barn building right now. Committee felt it needed some sort of entrance and some other maybe design features, and they're coming back in April again. The final items were MI Homes' request for product lineup at Helms Mills, and that kind of devolved into a discussion of the 24-inch brick return on our homes that have a masonry front or a wainscot at the bottom, and whether the material change could occur on an outside corner or whether it needed to wrap 24 inches as our standards say. And we got considerable pushback, I think, from the builders of not wanting to wrap it around the corner. I think several members of the committee felt that wrapping it around the corner presented a better location for material change rather than directly on an outside corner, since we prefer to change materials on an inside corner, but if it's an outside corner and that's where the masonry stops, you got to change it somewhere, and the builders really don't want to wrap it, I guess. So that discussion, I think, is going to be continued as well. That's it.
Any questions? All right, Plan Commission.
Yeah, the Planning Commission met on March 18th, right after the Architectural Review Committee. There was 5 topics discussed. The 3 of the 5 were dealing with PUDs for Drees Creekside subdivision from Fishers, for Patch, for Gateway, and for the community center.
Mhm.
And they were all approved, and they're on the agenda tonight for council review. Fisher presented development and secondary plots for Hampton Walk, and those were approved. And last but not least, we spent some time reviewing the comp plan, and we're going to continue reviewing it next week.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Oh, and Parks Board.
Our Parks Board did not meet.
Okay. Consent agenda is the next item of business. We have two things on there. At this time, if any council member wants to pull anything from the consent agenda for more discussion, this is the time to do it. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been a first and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda passes 5-0. Next is old business. Motion to wait. Okay, before we get to this, Joel, I got a question as an attorney. Is there any way in the world we can write a policy so every time we need to waive fees for town construction or maintenance, that they don't have to come and present, ask for permission? Or is that state statute?
So whenever you're talking about the consideration of the waiver of a fee that you have passed, you need to make sure that you have a procedure in place. I'd have to go back and look to be sure to see if there's a way that you can amend that ordinance to say if it meets this requirement, then it can be waived.
Here's my question. Let's say the fee's $500. We're having our clerk treasurer write a check back to ourselves for $500 for property the taxpayers already own. It's basically, it's a bookkeeping thing in my opinion.
Okay.
Right?
And I think what you could do is pass a policy or just on your fee schedule itself to essentially waive governmental entities from those fees.
Okay.
It would be a rework of your ordinance, though.
Right, because we're going to remodel this, and there'll be a permit fee. we're basically the town clerk treasurer's writing a check to the town of McCordsville.
Well, you want to keep her busy sometimes.
She's busy enough. Well, that was my question, because it seems like as the town grows and other projects come up that are town-owned properties and so forth, whether it's a parking lot or whatever, does the staff need to consistently come back and say, okay, well, we're doing this project, we need to waive the fees that we would normally assess?
I'm assuming that I haven't read your ordinance. I'm making the assumption here that your ordinance doesn't have that built-in caveat that governmental-owned units don't have to get that or waived from it. So I think if you just make an amendment that way, you could take care of that issue.
All right, I think that was something we need to look doing for the future.
We'll get that prepared for a first reading next month.
I mean, does anybody disagree with? I mean, it seems
That's crazy.
it is crazy. Why would we want to do that to ourselves? It just creates more work, and they're already overworked as it is. So, all right. So go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, so a request to waive the fees for both our town hall and community center projects. Talk a little bit more about the timeline of those if you wish, but they are coming down the road this year, and so we're just simply requesting that waiver in advance of what sounds like to be a larger ordinance rework to address this issue more globally in the future.
I'll make a motion to waive the permit fees on the town hall and community center projects.
Second.
There's been a first and second to waive the fees on town hall and community center projects. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
And let's work on that ordinance, or what are we going to do to change that? That's next is authorization to execute the right of entry agreement at 6104 West Broadway. This is a right of entry. I believe you've talked to Dr. Harbin. It's been signed by Dr. Harbin and his company, correct?
Correct. We did meet on site with them, discuss where the location would be for the dumpster, and this would grant the town right to create a dumpster pad and relocate the dumpster on his property.
Okay, so you just need an authorization for me to sign the agreement?
Correct.
Make a motion to authorize President Brewer to sign the, to execute the right of entry agreement.
Second?
There's been a first and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you, and as long as there are no other concerns, once we execute this and take action on the actual movement of the dumpster, replacing the old pad and replacing with sod or dirt and seed, we will then move forward with the removal of the asphalt of Indiana Street.
Okay. All right, our next order of business is a public hearing on ordinance number 031125A, an ordinance amending the town fee schedule. Ryan, you want to just give us the brief history again, and then we'll open the public hearing?
Sure. So we we amended a series of our ordinances, a series of our fees, I think 2 months ago now, to address a few things that we wanted to update. At the time, we were not prepared to update our right-of-way fees, and so we moved forward with that ordinance and getting that on the books. We are now coming back with this second amendment to the ordinance, which addresses a fee for lineal feet of work in the right-of-way. It is a big 20 cents per lineal foot that is added to the fee schedule. All other fees remain the same, but this while it may sound inconsequential, it is somewhat significant in that as we have and we expect to have utilities that are going to be installing large swaths of infrastructure in existing neighborhoods that they'll have to get permits for. We can issue one permit for a large amount of work and charge this fee and still be able to cover the costs that are going to be associated with us, with manpower and other things that it takes to review and approve those permits. So it sounds very small, but it is an important fee to get on our books before we get too many of those right-of-way permits submitted.
All right, at this time, I'm going to suspend town council meeting and open the public hearing. So if anybody wants to come up at this time in favor, against, or just indifferent on the fee schedule of 20 cents per linear feet, this is your time. Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing and reconvene our town council meeting. Any discussion more on the ordinance for Ryan or amongst council? All right, if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve or deny.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 031125A.
Second.
There's been a first and a second to approve ordinance number 031125A, an ordinance amending the town fee schedule. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next order of business, this is new business. This is the second reading because I believe the public hearing was held at Plan Commission.
Correct.
So, this is ordinance number 040825, an ordinance to adopt the Creekside PUD. Any discussion? Okay, come on.
I need to recuse myself.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. Accuse yourself.
Recused.
I'll just say that there was a lot of discussion, 2 planning commissions ago, concerns by the residents. The developer met with the residents and solved all their problems and concerns, and none of them showed up to oppose the situation at the planning commission.
Okay. No? Go ahead if you like.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
I'm Caitlin Dofer, Land Acquisition Manager with Dries Homes. And I'll keep this brief and just touch on the project quickly, but Dries as a company, we've been family owned and operated now for going on 97 years. We're Cincinnati based and we've been in the Indianapolis area for over 24 years. We are a smaller builder. We've only closed 224 homes in the Indianapolis area over the last 12 months. By comparison, some of the larger builders in the area are closing 1,000 to 2,000 homes a year. So we're really focused on quality over quantity and focusing on our customer service. That's where our custom plus construct mindset comes in, where we're custom in design. Our buyers get to choose their lots, their floor plan, any changes they want to their floor plan, and then through our production and execution, we make the process as easy as possible for them. Our buyers are the discernible buyer, meaning that at our price point, they really focus on the fine details, the quality, and they're willing to pay more for that too. Next slide, please. So looking at our timeline so far, we've been to ARC in January. We've had 2 neighborhood meetings, 2 plan commission meetings, and then we're before you tonight respectfully asking for approval. We have filed our primary plat because we are hoping to break ground this year. Next slide, please. And then our overall concept plan, this is located on the northeast corner of County Road 750 and Carroll Road. We're looking at 80 acres. The total site itself is about 90 acres. So our petition does not include the 10 acres to the east. That will be a separate petition at a later time for probably a different user. But we're looking at the 80 acres, 25% open space overall. There are existing trees on the site, so our land plan has contemplated preserving those as much as possible. That north-south tree line going down the middle is existing, and so it provides a natural separation between our area B, which is to the left, the blue lots, or sorry, area A, which is the blue lots, and then area B, which is the yellow lots.
Can I stop you for one
Absolutely.
question for Mark? That property to the east of this development, where would that entry point be to get into that lot? And I don't see any connectivity of this property to that for future development.
There is that has been contemplated. There is a exhibit kind of showing that at the end of the report. It's just a sketch. There's some details we have to work through, but we have talked at length with the developer about a realignment of 750 as it approaches the CSX crossing.
Okay.
So that has been some in-depth discussions.
Because if you don't do that, it looks to me like if you don't, then that makes that property to the east almost impossible to. You don't want to have an entry and exit point right there at the railroad crossing, is the way I look at that, right?
No, you're absolutely correct.
Okay. So we have that figured out with the petitioner?
Yeah, we've looked at the separation between the intersection and the CSX crossing back to where the entrance is. That's been quite a discussion on it because NDOT does plan on putting a traffic signal at the Broadway and 750 intersection. So we're going to interact with NDOT on what our plans are and make sure that we're both on the same page as far as what improvements are needed.
Would this be a three-way stop, or how would this intersection work if that was?
Details for that haven't happened yet,
Okay.
but there's definitely going to be some degree of realignment. What you see there is just a sketch of a potential solution. We've also looked, I've talked with the developer, and he's going to have some plans. Nothing's been engineered yet. It's literally
So I
a
guess
little better than a sketch.
my other question is, a lot of times the fire department wants 2 ways in and out, right? So where would, that's not their problem because they've got those interests with that property to the east. Where would if they're not connected to that neighborhood, what's going to be the second in and out for that parcel?
So they have generally not required it of like commercial developments. It's been their focus for the 2 ins and outs is usually on residential projects above a certain number of units. But they will have to have full access around their buildings once they get on site. So it should be okay with one entrance. We certainly can provide, if it becomes necessary, some sort of emergency access point, if necessary, somewhere else, either along this right-of-way of 750 or from one of the other properties in the future. But I think from what we know now, it would be permissible as a single entry point.
So you guys are comfortable with the connectivity and all that? All right.
Yes.
Thanks.
No, thank you for asking the question. And then other design aspects of the site too, we do have 2 boulevard entrances contemplated along County Road 700 North. Both of those terminate in open space or an amenity area, so it'll be a really nice kind of welcome for residents as they drive into the community. We have perimeter trails going around the site. The trail to the north is 10 feet wide, and it's been specifically pulled away from that northeast property at the request of that property owner to make sure that there is no temptation for trespassing from future residents. Next slide, please. And then as we've worked through Plan Commission, some of the tweaks that we've made to the PUD and the concept plan is increasing the height of the mounding on the west side, and that's specifically along Carroll Road, going an undulating mound from 3 to 6 feet in height. And then that 10-foot wide multi-use path, like I mentioned, has been pulled away. And then we've also pulled lots away from the creek, making sure that they don't encroach at all into that floodplain. And then as previously mentioned, we've had 2 neighborhood meetings where we've discussed in length utilities, road improvements, the timeline of the project, as well as the average sales price. And then amenities for the project. We do have one park area on the east side at the end of that entrance. We're contemplating a shelter, gathering space, nice landscaping, making sure that those lots are shielded from any cars coming into the subdivision. And then we have a pick list for amenities where we can contemplate a pool with a pool house or a minimum of the 3 of the following amenities. And that could be half basketball courts, tennis court, 2 pickleball courts, bocce ball, frisbee, disc golf course, pond overlook, pavilion with seating, or passive gathering areas.
So which way is the developer leaning?
It will come down to what we think the HOA can bear. As we've gotten into more of the details of the project, and this is just a concept plan, so we're just now entering the engineering stage. I think we'll have a better idea at that time, because overall we're looking at about 170 lots, which isn't a huge community. And with these lot sizes too, and this price point, these buyers are more likely to put in their own pools rather than see the value of a community pool. So that's our thought process right now.
Okay.
We're kind of in the final stages of coming with a new comprehensive plan. And one of the things contemplated in that is amending, I guess, our zoning ordinance so that new PUDs will have gathering spaces for the residents. Whether they be inside or outside doesn't say, but obviously that's going to come in after you get your approval, but that is in the comprehensive plan, so if that counts for anything, the last item on your list there, combined with the pavilion, would probably be good. And I also wanted to inquire where the utilities are going to come in, and if you have acquired the easements that you'll need to run those to your property.
Would someone from my team be able to speak to the specifics of that?
Get some sales done. Just give a name, please, for the record.
Yeah, good evening. For the record, Keith Lash, Division President for Dries Homes. Sanitary sewer will come from the north. There will be a lift station at the northern part of the site. It'll pump to the north. We do have agreements in place with the 2 property owners necessary for those easements. The actual easement is not executed yet. We just got approval from Mark yesterday on some edits from the legal side, so we expect those to be signed shortly. Water will come from the opposite side of Broadway at 750. We'll cross underneath 6X, underneath the Broadway to a water main right about there.
And there's permission from CSX to get under there with the water main?
We will be working with them to seek that approval, yes.
And my final question is, could we get 5 more square feet of garage space? I mean, 415 is really tight, 20 feet long and 415 square feet. That's a pretty small garage, and that's going to you know, spit a lot of stuff out into the driveway because there's no place for it in the garage. We typically have gone with slightly larger garages than you all have.
I don't know how tight our square footage was. Our garages generally are larger, but we have some that do have,
Well, you've got the 415 number in your PUD.
right. And what I don't know is, looking at all of our plan lineups, if there's a plan or two that are near that 415 to go to 420, if that would prohibit us. Because you're asking for 5 more square feet. Is that what you're asking for?
Yeah.
If it takes that to get done tonight, then we would agree to do the 420 square.
Probably not a breaking point, but it
Yeah.
means less stuff outside the garage on the property.
Agreed.
Mostly kids' plastic items and bikes and stuff like that.
Okay.
Thank you, Keith.
Yep, thank you, appreciate it.
And then looking at our product area A, which is that western area, we're proposing 85-foot wide lots. There's 73 lots contemplated right now. Minimum square footage for 1 story is 2,000. Minimum square footage for 2 stories, 2,600. These are going to have options including basement, side-load garages, third-car garages, outdoor living areas, and sunrooms. And our average sales price is $780,000. Just some examples of our interior finishes. And then area B, these are 60-foot wide lots, about 87 lots right now. 1,800 square feet minimum for 1 story, and then 2,400 square foot minimum for 2 story. These are also going to have basement options when the floor plan allows, as well as outdoor living and sunrooms. And then these are examples of the interior finishes as well. And then highlighting the architectural standards. We have put in dimensional shingles into the PUD, offered in 3 different colors. All siding is going to be brick, stone, wood, cement, fiber, or stucco. Area A is going to have a 30-inch brick or stone wainscot on all 4 sides, plus two siding colors or materials. And then area B is going to have 50% of the homes will have 50% brick or stone on the front elevation. And then the remaining 50% of the homes will have a masonry wainscot with the 2 siding colors or materials. There are rear elevation enhancements on lots backing up to 750 and Carroll. All homes are going to have a covered entryway. There are window requirements. Basements are going to be offered in area A. And then, as mentioned, the minimum garage size is 450 square feet. And then all garages will have decorative garage doors, and that's windows and brackets.
Is there enough setback or right of way there for the future if Lawrence and Indianapolis decide to put a roundabout in at that location?
Yes. So, 1, the PD requires dedication of right-of-way within the confines of our thoroughfare plan. And then 2 is an additional commitment that they will provide right-of-way dedication for the future roundabout at that intersection. So,
Because I'm looking at drawing it, and concern is they're going to put it, is that the sidewalk that goes around there?
yeah, the sidewalk falls in the right-of-way.
Okay, so in my concern is there, because that's coming down the road eventually, I'm assuming. Is there, do they take too much and all of a sudden lots 1, 2, 3, 4 end up having a roundabout?
Oh, right in the backyard.
Yeah, right in their backyards.
I believe you have a minimum perimeter common area. I don't remember the distance or the depth.
Ooh.
I'm just thinking that while you're planning this, that's a future consideration that needs, because that's not going to fall on us. That'll fall on whatever the city of Lawrence and city of Indianapolis decide. And so I don't want, I want the developer to be prepared that could be a future issue.
Cannot read that from here. Hold on. 50-foot wide landscape buffer. So there'll be a minimum of 50 feet between right-of-way and lot lines. So even if, let's play that out. I feel confident in saying along 750, we're never going to use more than what's in our thoroughfare plan.
Okay.
You're correct. We cannot guarantee what City of Indianapolis, City of Lawrence would do in the future. But even if they took, an additional 20 past their thoroughfare plans, you're still going to have 30 feet of common space between
Okay.
their new right-of-way line and the back of lot line.
Alright.
You concur with that, Caitlin?
Yes, and our engineers designed the plan to give that extra breathing room for a future roundabout.
Because that's a heavily, very congested intersection, and it's with this project going in. A lot of people don't use 750 to get, they go down and catch the light at Carroll and use that. So eventually, there's going to be enough traffic on there that the city of Lawrence or somebody's going to have to take notice and look at improving that intersection. I like the product. I do. I think it's a good spot for that. It's past architectural review, right?
Correct.
Past planning commission.
Yes, sir.
All right. Staff have any major concerns?
Staff has no major concerns. We are in support of this. They've addressed all of our comments from Plan Commission, and so we are in support.
If this doesn't go in, what do we see in the future? Anything?
Yeah, eventually, I believe, in my opinion, what you'll see is one of the national home builders, the much larger home builders, come in with a higher density, smaller lots, and make the project work if this doesn't go through. This, in staff's opinion, these homes, this product level, these lot sizes is absolute highest and best use that we will see on this property.
Okay. I don't see any other use for it. I mean,
it's definitely residential, and again, I think if you see, knowing most national home builders, they're going to propose at least smaller lots, more density on a project like this. Doesn't mean we have to accept it, right? We know that, but that's what I would suspect would occur.
It's a nice looking product line with large lots.
Yep, agreed.
yeah, I like the value. Appreciate it. Any questions? I mean, I know you guys have vetted it.
Yeah, we've had a lot of questions and all the answers.
A lot of that. Yeah, they've done a really good job working with people.
Okay. All right, at this time, is there any public opinions before we take any action? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 040825.
Second.
There has been a first and second to approve ordinance number 040825, an ordinance to adopt the Creekside PUD. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. 4-0. I'm sorry, you abstained. Apologies. Do we need to take a roll call since you abstained?
No.
Okay.
Sean.
All right. Next order of business is ordinance number 040825A, an ordinance to adopt the gateway at McCordsville PUD. This is a second reading as well. This is the patch development.
Good evening, Andrew Greenwood with Patch Development, here tonight to request adoption of the gateway at McCordsville PUD. The property, I lost the mover, but
Get to drive now.
there you go. If you're not aware, the property's on the northwest corner of 600 West and 500 North, approximately 38 acres. Patch Development, go to the next slide, please, is we're a commercial real estate development firm located in Fishers. We've done this type of project all around the kind of the donut counties and all around Indianapolis with a lot of success, and we're really excited about this project. On the next slide, this is our summary of kind of our concept plan. Previously, this property was a part of a larger property that was all zoned industrial. We're asking, to rezone this to a mixed-use PUD with 3 different district areas, an A, B, and a C. We feel that this complies with your comprehensive plan. We align with your goal of providing various modes of transportation by utilizing the multimodal path, as well as promoting a balance of land uses and diversifying your tax base. It'll be a first-class product. Building types will range from retail and flex to kind of that light and medium industrial product. Will attract innovative, dynamic companies with the sizes of the buildings being limited. In terms of the light and medium industrial, will attract smaller, better businesses, not trucks. So I think the group that was against the bigger trucks would be favorable of this dynamic.
So when you talk about that, you're looking at what kinds of businesses? Are you light manufacturing? Are you looking at like HVAC companies, electrical? What are we talking about?
All of the above, biotech, any local business. I mean, you're talking about someone who wants 20,000 to 100,000 square foot at the maximum.
Not a logistics company.
No, not
Company.
logistics.
Okay.
The logistics folks are going in 250,000 to a million square feet with all kinds of trucks and trailers going in and out. That's not who wants to go into these buildings. These are the folks that service some of those other buildings.
Okay.
So the people who work on the line over at the Walmart, right? They have an engineering firm. They want to be close by. They need 20,000 square feet. They have 10 engineers, a handful of people who make and design stuff, and they need to be near that. They're the ones that are going to go to this. So you're going to attract more local folks, higher paying jobs,
Yeah.
better businesses.
Well, I mean, that's what we want. We want people to work and live here, and so I think a lot of times people see the word industrial and they're thinking the same thing I was thinking of. Huge warehouse,
Right.
logistics companies, semis coming in and out, and that's not the purpose of that parcel, in
No.
my opinion.
Is it similar to the Washington Park, like over on 37, you guys did?
Yeah, probably smaller in scale.
Even
I mean,
smaller
that's
scale.
150 acres.
Right. Buildings are relocated, headquarters, they were kind of coming out of dense areas out of Noblesville, relocate to their new headquarters buildings. Really, really nice.
And in that
Really,
park,
really nice facilities.
yeah, in that park we have anywhere from 24,000 square feet all the way up to probably a little bit closer to 200. So
Yeah.
we don't have anything
Like
even
IDI
that.
is bigger than that, but
Yeah.
it's a top-notch businesses going in there.
So you're looking at District C to be the more of your flex space type, light industrial manufacturing, that kind of stuff. B and A are more commercial.
So A is retail only.
Retail only.
And we already have a potential user to go in there.
Okay.
So we're excited about that. And then B would be flexible. And when we say that, it could either be retail if the demand is there. If
Mhm.
not, we have a smaller product that's about 24,000 square feet that's business in the front and maybe warehouse in the back. So,
And that would, the business part would face Mount Comfort Road?
correct.
Okay.
And we've agreed to higher architectural standards on anything that's facing Mount Comfort Road. And then any dock doors or drive-ins would have to face the west.
Okay, so.
So
and
it's
that-
all shielded.
Okay.
So as you drove by, it would appear to be almost like Garden Office. If you've been on 96th Street, where our headquarters is, there's a few examples of that. Where in the front it looks like a brick facade, a
Yeah,
garden
it's so nice.
garden office, but in the back there's dock doors and drive-ins, but you wouldn't know that as you drive by.
Okay.
And so it's a smaller product, so we like that flexibility, and there's some examples here that you can see. That's our building there on 96th Street.
Oh.
There's another one there. So it looks almost like garden office,
It does.
but it does have the capacity to have a warehouse kind of entry in the back. So a subcontractor, a lighting subcontractor, someone who needs a showroom kind of in the front, has a few people in the office,
Right.
but then they need a little warehouse space in the back. A lot of folks love that.
When you guys
Yeah.
attracted like Prima Racing too. I mean, it's
Yeah,
really
that's a
nice.
little bit bigger building, but we did that as well.
Yeah, it looks like an office, but it's a F1 kind of support racing. It looks amazing.
What's your maximum height on these buildings?
For District A, it's 40 feet in the retail. I believe B is also 40 feet. I'm just checking my notes. And then in the back, in C, it would be as high as 60 feet.
What are the warehouses we got right now?
Those are going to be,
40s, right, probably?
no,
No, I'm
higher.
talking
They're
about-
40-foot clear, which means they're 65 feet or higher.
But like Alnire, how big was that one?
I don't think it's that tall.
It's
Okay.
probably 50 feet to the top of the.
Yeah, because
precast,
it's probably
something like
30-something, high 30s clear probably, isn't it?
that. I think it's maybe 40 clear. Is it
It's
not
40 clear,
40
which means it's probably over 60
Yeah,
foot,
true.
and it's the top.
Okay.
So this is, the goal here is that we would be a little bit lower, but have that flexibility if we did gain a corporate headquarters, or like we have one group who's going to go kind of on the, if you go back to the concept plan, that's, you should be hearing from here shortly. It'll be going kind of in this area. They're going to have 2 stories, so they'll have 2-story office in the
Okay.
front and then warehouse in the back, so that extra space.
I'm okay with the office space there. I just don't need these 2 huge,
Yeah.
big, huge warehouses. Somebody goes, well, you could build
Understood.
another warehouse.
I mean, it's not a peak like a residential, so
Right.
it's a flat roof, but the reality is that in order to have 30 to 40 foot clear, it's a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Well,
I
in the
get that.
smaller buildings, you would probably never be that tall. I mean, like, it's like an ASRC, like a
Mhm.
retrieval, they'd go high on some of that small footage, but, I mean.
And the building footages too are applied to the building, not the building footprint. So if there's a 100,000 max square foot building, doesn't matter if it's 1 or 5 stories, the entire the entire square footage of the building is limited to that 100,000 square feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, appreciate it.
Yeah, so, I don't know where we left off, but District A is the retail, B is the flex, and then C is the light industrial. We're, again, excited about this. We worked with Ryan and Mark and Tim and feel like we're hitting the ground running. We're meeting the architectural standards, the neighborhood commercial district for A, the combination, kind of the hybrid on B, and then C, we're meeting that industrial standard, light and medium industrial district, I think, that you guys have called the I-2. So we have landscape and buffer yards between the buildings. It's all per ordinance. I think there was some comment from a neighbor if you go back to the concept plan, I'll just address this. In this area here, we have some houses that we have not been able to acquire yet or aren't a part of this plan. And so in order to mitigate any concern that they have, we agreed that if we do develop District B, we would plant a row of trees to buffer that between their residential and anything that would occur.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you, because we've got an email from a resident over there that basically had said that they live at 5202 North 6th Center West, that they are still in discussions but have not come to an agreement yet. But if they can't, they were asking for buffering in the form of concrete walls. Was that discussed at Plan Commission, or is that?
We did denote that had been requested. It did not get much discussion at Plan Commission.
Okay. But you're willing to, if those aren't mounting in trees?
Yeah, upon development of District B, I think the reality is that anything that would happen behind that would need those properties to be a part of it. But if something were to be designed and able to be put there, we would need to buffer accordingly.
Okay.
And then we have ample buffering on District C to the west. As we understand, the future plans probably are some residential to the west of this project. And so we have.
That was my next question. What were you planning to do?
Yeah, it's a pretty substantial, there's a stormwater easement and then a substantial additional buffer yard along with mounding and trees and a fence.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we hit the trifecta on that, if I'm not.
Yeah, so along the west side of District C, it's within 50 foot of the property lines, a 30-foot drainage easement and a 20-foot wide buffer yard, but that's going to add up to a total of 50 feet of green space. Within that area is, as Andrew said, both mounding, fencing, and tree plantings.
Okay.
And then I'll jump into on the District B and the 2 homes that are there in that notch. I think there's 2 important features. One, I agree the petitioner has agreed to buffer those in the event that he's not able to acquire them prior to constructing District B in the form of a staggered double row of evergreen trees, which I think will provide a pretty good screening. But you see how District B has a very weird shape to it. That was by design. That was one of the first conversations we had when we first started talking about this project was what we didn't want to do is leave those homes permanently there on an island forever. And so it was very important for us to build into this project an ability that they can be redeveloped in the future, even if Patch doesn't do the project. So that blue area behind those lots provides the proper depth so that those 2 residential lots in the future could be acquired by someone. So that same person could acquire what's remaining of that blue area and create legitimate either flex or commercial outlots and actually have the proper sizes to do so and have access to that internal drive, making it feel like as if you came back from 10 years ago and knew nothing about this discussion, but they were developed separately, you'd never know that they were developed separately.
Okay.
The plan was laid out to be thoughtful from the start that those will someday, whenever those homeowners decide they would like to sell, they can sell and it can be incorporated into a plan to where it looks like we thought about this a long time ago, which we did.
Can you talk a little bit more about semi-trucks in terms of permitted uses? Could there be any facility there servicing such trucks or attracting such trucks or fueling such trucks or supporting and storing and parking such trucks?
So on District A, we do have fueling stations approved, but it cannot be for a truck stop. It can't have showers. It can't have, there's a long
I see the prohibitions on a fueling station.
Yeah, so that's taken care of there. In District C, we are following your zoning district, and I would have to defer to Ryan in terms of if I don't believe that's allowed, but.
So like I'll speak to, I'm using a little bit different language than you use, Dr. Burney, but for instance, warehousing unenclosed, which would be essentially outdoor storage, is a special exception in the C district only. So if someone wanted to do something that involved any kind of warehousing or storage outside of a building, it would have to go to the BZA as a special exception. It could not be approved by right. In terms of truck maintenance or truck facilities, I think we've addressed that, but let me check. Yeah, here we go. Truck, bus, sales, or service is prohibited, as well as any kind of automotive storage. Automotive sales or lease would only be permitted in District C. Special exception in District B. Same thing with auto rental. And when we say auto, it does not include truck. It would be passenger vehicles. Recreational vehicles would be treated the same. It looks like they would be a special exception in District B and a special exception in District C. And then minor and major automotive services, and again, not truck services, but automotive services. Minor services, these are things like oil changes, tires, detailing. Those would be permitted in all three districts. Major service, i.e. body shops, would be a special exception in District B and permitted by right in District C.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is as you move further south on Mount Comfort Road, you feel encroached upon by these monstrous buildings, which are all basically logistics centers right up against the road. And I'm very much against that sort of spreading into our town. I think we are mostly a residential town, and I think our townsfolk don't really want to see that. And in our comprehensive plan, we're going to have the discussion on, extending Aurora Way and what's going to be back there. Is that going to be residential or is it going to be industrial, and are we going to get warehousing? And I look at District C and I'm reminded of the duck, It has wings, it walks like a duck. Is it a duck? It looks like a warehouse. And I'm wondering, I like the showroom up front, and it needs some, boxes of lighting fixtures, or it's a counter place, and they have a CNC for granite to make countertops and cabinets and that sort of stuff in the back. And that's very different than something that spits out a semi-truck, every 5 minutes around the clock.
I think our understanding, box trucks are not excluded, but semis would be, like, you can't just have semis sitting there overnight.
I'm just
like
not wanting a warehouse there.
Yeah, like Southwark and some of these other big.
I don't know if there's a prohibition of a semi-truck being parked on the lot. I can't think of one in the PUD.
I mean, I can understand deliveries and stuff, but it's not, you're not dropping trailers and storing them while.
That's certainly not the intent.
It's not a logistics center like we're seeing across.
Correct. And these buildings the way the buildings are permitted, with the sizes that they are, I can't really see that happening. But to answer the question, I don't think anything prohibits a semi from parking overnight on one of these lots.
So they should have a storage lot, a parking lot for a gathering of tractor trailer trucks. There's one like that was built down there off of Mount Comfort where, there was probably 50 idle trucks that would stay for long periods of time.
Yep.
And you're saying that's not prohibited according to,
I think a collection of them where that's clearly being done repetitively, I think we would call that unenclosed warehousing, storage of
Okay.
vehicles, and we could prohibit that. Or they could seek a special exception to get it approved. I think if you have, you've got a building and there's the random semi-truck parked overnight occasionally, I don't think that's prohibited
No.
in this.
I'm just looking at being turned into a logistics center where they're dropping trailers, while they, becomes a distribution center, and that's not what we're looking for.
Right.
Right. But I also see the fact that everything faces to the east, so Mount Comfort, so that would be pretty much, all that stuff's gonna be shielded anyhow on the backside.
We
There's
did
enough buffering and shielding on the west end side for any future development.
We did include, as I'm reading the PUD now again to refresh my memory, in District C, we did include a bullet point there that states parking spaces in the front yard of the building shall not be used for display or storage of merchandise, equipment, or materials. So I think that would pretty much prohibit overnight parking of a semi-truck in the front yard or the front parking areas of anything in District C.
Okay.
You would not prohibit that in A and B, and I think at the time when we talked about this with Andrew, we just didn't anticipate that happening in A and B because these are not going to be larger buildings in A and B. A and B are going to be smaller buildings, probably 30,000 and less, and so you're not likely to have that. But if you would like this same language applied in other districts, we do need to amend this PUD. We can do that tonight verbally.
I'd be more comfortable with that, just in the language, somebody could then come back 5-10 years from now and go, oh, and they're gone, and we're gone. And oh, well, hey, the PUD doesn't say we can't, and then all of a sudden we've created a problem.
Do you have any concerns with that?
So I just want to clarify, make sure I understand. You're asking us to not have any merchandising, storage, or
Merchandise, equipment, or materials stored or displayed in a front parking lot. Probably just anywhere in A and B, and then the front parking lot of C would probably be the best.
Correct.
The hardware stores put their firewood out front and their lawn and garden tractors that are for sale and chain them all up and they sit out there forever.
My only question would be how it would treat we're proposing a gas station on District A, and if they have water bottles out front or they sell salt in the winter, that kind of stuff, is that prohibited under this? That would be my only concern.
That would be considered materials and merchandise.
And we don't do that for Meyer, and we don't do that for Family Express right now, right? No.
We have limited those in some capacity. So in most cases, like the Meyer, by ordinance, it limits it to having to be right in front of the building. So if you go to Meyer today, you don't see what you see at mini gas stations, which is they have their piles at the islands under the canopy.
Oh, really? Have you not been to Meyer lately?
Probably, maybe not. They have it there.
I would highly recommend you drive over there.
Okay, I'll take a look. But usually we keep it right to the front sidewalk area of our gas stations. And Leo's has it even more screened, where it's behind a wall. Where
Right,
they have
propane and all that, right? Yes.
I mean, I guess I would ask for the clarification on District A to be able to have it within the front sidewalk area.
I just want to be consistent, right? So if we're telling A and B and C and D here in town, you can't do something, but we're permitting you, that to me, that's not equal. So I think we need to make sure that, that we've got that clarified, because somebody's going to come back and say, well, hey, down there in District A, those guys can do all this, and you guys told me we can't. And we got to make sure that everybody's on the same page with that.
I just want to be clear, though, I don't have any concern with that in District B. Any retail use there or any flex use there, that's not a problem whatsoever. It would just be in A because of I know how the gas stations are, and they have materials and sales stuff in the front.
But if we're only letting certain ones have propane out in front, then that needs, everybody needs to play by the same rules.
Our goal with this was to be consistent with your commercial your neighborhood commercial district. So that's what we're trying to abide by, and that's what's in the PUD, is that we're adhering to that district. So whatever's allowed in there is what we're agreeing to. And if we need to add this other language in there to bolster it, I'm more than fine with that. I just am asking for that same consistency that you're.
I just want everybody playing by the same rules.
Yeah,
You're trying to make a nice thing here, but you aren't going to be here forever. And language gets parsed down the road. And I know a lot of effort has been made with A and B to make them tall enough in relationship to C, so if you're in just immediately to the east of the building on Mount Comfort Road going either north or south and you look out your window, you can't really see C because the line of sight blocks it with A and B. I don't think that's necessarily true if you're heading south and look out your window to the west, you're going to see the north side of that building. And I'm not sure we've met the enclosed residents, I guess, if you will, the neighboring residents, the enclosed residents. I'm not sure where is that exactly on this? Is it in that notch in area in District B?
Yeah, where we're talking about.
I'm not sure we've got adequate screening for them. My hope would be that a deal could be reached to purchase that, which I would rather see done before approval. And I also want to be sure that we're all clear that the town isn't, removing snow from your parking lots or your drives or any of the public roads in the facility that you're going to do your snow removal.
Correct. Yeah, the only public road is the north-south and then that east-west.
Yeah, I don't think it says that in there regarding snow removal.
It does not. As of right now, the way the PUD is written, the town will be responsible for snow removal on any internal public right-of-way street.
Well, if it was a residential development, the HOA would have to do it.
That is correct. That's how we've traditionally operated with residential projects because of this. I think it's the sheer linear foot of streets and residential projects compared to this, which will be significantly less. But yes, we've done that with residential projects.
Do we have any developments with roads or streets where we've undertaken additional snow removal there?
Do you mean like internal public roads and commercial development where we do snow removal?
Yeah.
McCord Square, Main Street, Market Street, all those are public roads that we are responsible for snow removal on. Aurora Way. I'm trying to think if any of our other commercial development has public streets in it. I can't think of any others that have public street in them.
No, and I would say too that it would be not uncommon for a municipality to plow a road like this. I mean, if it was there might be some circumstances where you had a larger development, where you had a larger industrial or building complex that might have a support for it, but we haven't discussed that.
We don't plow until it's 2 inches or greater, right?
There's a snow policy for it. I don't know it off the top of my head.
What is your projected order of development in terms of the districts? What are you guys thinking right now based off of the I won't say commitments, but at least interest that you've received?
A building here, starting by the end of the year, maybe even sooner.
Okay.
And here.
So my only concern is that District B not getting developed, right? What kind of so what is what's your time frame, and would you estimate that where you would be, because where you would start going after District B and starting to develop that? Because I'm concerned some people have as well, that's those two parcels haven't been purchased yet. It does buy you some time to keep negotiations and work on purchasing that, but also it would not require the mounding to go in until that started getting developed, right?
Well, yeah, and to be clear, there's no mounding required in the PUD,
Or
just trees. Yep.
Just tree. I'm just saying blockage
Correct.
of some form. So.
Yeah, it would not be required until District B develops.
Right. So even if those, there would be no understanding. I hope the landowners understand that they're not getting that buffering or that shielding until those two areas are until that area starts to become developable. Right.
That's the way it is written, and I don't know if the Millers are here or not tonight to speak to this or not. I don't know if they're here, but I have not had any contact or discussions with Regina Miller since this March 18th.
Okay. I mean,
So if there's no buffering there, they just have basically a clear view directly into District C.
There's an existing tree line
Okay.
behind, right there, that already exists right now.
Got it.
Just the developer wouldn't put any in until they started developing
That-
District B.
yeah.
So,
And I think it'd be a natural progression that after this happens, then we would start, I mean, we're working on it.
I know you
It's
are.
not for a lack of effort.
Right.
Or marketing. It's just, the demand, where's the demand at? And right now, it's, those two buildings going in and the convenience / gas station
Gotcha.
there.
Would it be too much of a logistical thing to plant those trees now so they have a chance to start growing now if they're a minimum?
well, but I think if you start planting those now, then there's no incentive for the person down the
that's
road to say, yeah, I want to sell to you, right? You've kind of already taken care.
Got it.
I mean,
That makes sense.
It's really the property owner's decision, but I would think they need to know, hey, listen, if you're not going to sell, that's fine. But we're not going to put this stuff in until
That makes
we
sense.
develop it.
And the,
Still
and the commitment on the trees, these are minimum 8 foot. So these aren't, these are larger trees
Yeah.
in 2 rows. It's not a,
Is the tree line on the property you own or they own? The existing tree line?
I think it's right on the line.
Gotcha.
I mean, we would commit to not
Touching
touching
till you
it.
have
I mean, we don't plan on touching that until such time as there's either an arrangement with them or.
Is there houses? You already acquired a couple houses there? There's next
Uh,
to,
we-
I don't know what's next. directly next to them now.
2 houses.
Right.
There's 2 houses there that remain. Everything else has been acquired.
We can zoom in here a bit. That might be
Yeah, see
helpful
what's-
for this. There's the 2 properties.
Okay, so it's just field next to them. I gotcha. Okay. In between that and what's going to be the gas thing. With
There's some
B, if you B, half of it's
Yeah,
just
south
field,
there,
right?
there's still
Just
field, yes.
yeah.
In our projections that will be a part of the RDC presentation, I mean, we are anticipating that the southern portion of Lot B would happen in the next 2 to 3 years. So we're not talking about 10, 15
Right.
years away. But A will probably go. A is going to go first, and then we'll continue to work our way.
So the town's going to be installing the road system.
Developer will be installing the road system, correct?
Yeah, it would follow like what we see typical development. So they install it to our standards and dedicate it to the town.
And so I was just trying to figure out why this private road was,
Between A and
between A and B was,
denoted.
yeah,
This here,
yeah.
we asked for that to be shown on there, I believe, just to show, we wanted to be clear about, at a conceptual level, where it was going to be located at. And just to make sure that we were communicating properly, that it's not to be closer than whatever Mark's distance was from the roundabout. So it's more of a,
That's conceptual.
it's
More of a
conceptual.
place
but-
marker,
What's that?
just a place marker in the.
Correct. It's not the exact location, but we wanted to be clear that it's supposed to serve A and B, and that private road, which would be right in, right out onto Mount Comfort Road, and the one to the north, the major cut to the north of the property, are the only cuts that will be allowed for this property on Mount Comfort Road. That is it. So we want to be very clear about that, and that's why we had them add it to the concept plan.
And the one to the north will not be only right in, right out.
Correct. There'll be full access.
Yeah, full
Mhm.
access.
It doesn't make it all the way to Aurora Way, right?
No.
No, rural way will be actually farther north
Yeah, it's
when it's developed.
another 40 acres up.
That north access point is roughly halfway between the roundabout to the south and Aurora Way.
Gotcha.
And those distances and these locations do comply with our Mount Comfort Road Access Management Plan that was adopted a couple years ago.
And right now, no plans for anything north of that road to Aurora Way. It's still undeveloped
Not right now.
right now. Okay.
So I do think I could summarize the edits for the parking.
Mm-hmm.
We would use the language that's currently in District C and edit that language to add it to Area B, but prohibit display and storage of merchandise, vehicles, and equipment, and materials, for any parking areas in District B. And then I do not think we need to add it to District A. We currently have display language in our overlay that limits merchandise to be stored or displayed for sale to customers only in areas immediately adjacent to the primary structure on each property. It's prohibited elsewhere. Now, it does require some screening of those areas in the form of a short brick wall with topped by like wrought iron wall. So if petitioner doesn't want to do that, then we would need to amend this. But otherwise, we just need to make the amendment for District B.
You
So we're
acceptable with that?
Yep.
All right. Okay. All right. Any other questions for the petitioner? All right. Thank you. Anybody here in favor, against, indifferent that would like to speak on this project, this ordinance? All right. So what we're looking at is entertaining a motion with the amended language that Ryan will be added.
Yep.
Okay. On the parking.
I would actually make a motion to amend the PUD to reflect the language as one action and then take action on the amended.
Approve it. Okay, so the first order would be to approve the amended language for the PUD as stated.
So moved.
There's been a first and second. All those in favor of amending the PUD language as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0 on the amended. Now I'll entertain a motion to approve or not approve the PUD.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 040825A.
Do I have a second?
Second.
There's been a second to approve ordinance number 040825A, and an ordinance to adopt the gateway at McCordsville PUD that has been previously amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay?
Roll call, please.
Greg Brewer,
Yay.
Brian Burney,
Nay?
Scott Jones,
Yay.
Chad Gooding,
Yay.
John Price.
Yay. All right. Ordinance passes 4-1. Thank you. All right, next order of business. And if anybody is against this, we'll get problems. The ordinance 040825B, an ordinance to adopt the McCordsville Community Center PUD.
I will be brief with that intro Mr. Brewer just made. Town of McCordsville Community Center, located at the old fire station there on Form Street in Old Town. The site is about 0.8 of an acre. On the screen, you'll see kind of an artist rendering of the exterior building, the east facade of it, along with the conceptual site plan. You'll note on the site plan that the conceptual site plan does include the small used car dealership to the north. Just to be clear, we're planning for that. We have acquired that property just in the last 10 days. It is not part of the real estate included in this PUD at this time. We'll have to amend this PUD in the future to incorporate it in. When we started this process 60 days ago, we weren't quite confident we were going to be able to acquire that property, but we didn't want to hold up this process. So just to be clear, while we're planning for the old car lot to be included in this, we'll expand the parking and do some things with that lot. It is not included in the subject property of this PUD. With that said, this PUD simply transforms this parcel from a fire station to allowing a community center land use and the associated improvements that are shown on that concept plan. And I am happy to answer any questions you have on it.
In the permitted uses, you had bicycle sales, etc. I wondered if we should say sports equipment sales and rental, and rather than limiting it to just bicycles, because we might have scooters, skateboards, kayaks, I don't know.
Do that, yeah.
Bicycles just seem to be a one-off.
What I might offer
why
up,
limit it?
what I might offer up if it's amenable to Dr. Burney and the rest of the council is, our thought in including that language, it seems kind of weird to include that in this, was that we wanted to give ourselves some options in what will end up being in that old little used car building. And so knowing that we have to come back for that anyways, we might be able to amend this to address that in the next go-round, unless you'd like to address it tonight. We can do it either way. It's a little easier to do it probably later, but we can certainly do it tonight.
Dr. Burney, you amenable to that?
Yes.
All right. There's no other objections?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 040825B.
Second.
There's been a first and second to approve ordinance number 040825B, an ordinance to adopt McCordsville Community Center. Before we take it, were you here to talk about? No. Oh, okay. I just want to make sure I didn't miss something. I sometimes I get ahead of myself, so. Shirley, you have any on this one? Okay. All right, so the motion's been presented. Ordinance number 040825B has been a motion to approve. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we have a PUD for our community center.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. CSX easement agreement renewal. Mark?
So this is real straightforward. 25 years ago, the town had a sanitary sewer utility that did a crossing of the CSX. They did a lease agreement at that time, and that has expired, so this is a renewal for another 25-year period of that lease agreement. And yes, we absolutely need this infrastructure.
Are all of our pipes
No.
under the CSX tracks with easements per click?
I do not believe they are.
Like we put the sewer line under there, involving Colonnade?
This was the first time I realized that we had a lease agreement when this came up. So CSX actually reached out to us and said, if you notice too, it actually expired, not this year, but last year.
I just wondered if every pipe under that track gets $1,000 per pipe.
I can't answer that. I was not aware of it until just recently.
So basically, we got to sign this, or what happens? They can pull up our sewer?
Actually, there are terms in there. They get a little. We have to restore it back to the original state, which we do not.
No, we don't want to do that.
So
Move to approve.
Second.
There's been a first and second to approve the CSX easement regarding renewal. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Basically a do it or you don't,
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Okay, Assistant Town Manager report.
Yes, project status report has been uploaded, and various amendments were made since last month. Happy to answer any questions you have on it. Otherwise, I have no additional report to make.
It works. Any questions for Ryan?
Yep. Yeah.
That's one you recuse yourself on? Okay. Sorry, paperwork. All right. Okay, Shirley, you got any questions or anything? You're here?
Just anxious to know what's going on. I've been away for a little while, so just interested in knowing what's going on in the community that I've been here for longer than some of you are.
But I know, gosh, man, just came in swinging tonight.
And you're surprised.
So, I do have a question for you. What can you tell us about the sign that's on your property at 500 and 234 about the school? Sir, is there any information you can give, I guess?
Well, the only information I can give you, I presume you're referring to that on 234 between 500 and 475 West.
I was talking about, there's a sign for Holy Spirit Church?
Holy Cross.
Holy Cross, I'm sorry.
Has actually bought that property.
Oh, okay.
That was not, I was not an owner, it was Charlie and his brother and his sister, and they have sold it to Holy Cross Lutheran Church, and I'm sure the time will come when they will all come before you for what they would like to do there.
Awesome.
But that's not gonna be the next few months.
Now, I doubt they'll do anything till sewer is probably even.
That is correct. That is correct. But they wanted some property out there, and so wisely, they needed to be looking at it before everything continues to build up.
Are they going to have two campuses, do you know? Are they going to keep the one aren't they over off 70?
They're at Oak Landing.
Oak Landing, are they?
They're at Oak Landing, they have a school there, and,
This one's for a high school.
to the best of my knowledge, they will have both.
Oh, okay.
You know, how many years to come, I don't know, but I would not, I'll just give you my opinion only. it would not surprise me if down the road they might not want to build a new church or a high school or a grade school. In my
Well-
opinion.
Welcome them regardless what they put, so that's great. All right, well, glad were you down in Florida? Are you back from Florida? Well,
Yeah,
welcome back.
had an interesting winter, but Charlie's had some problems.
Oh, sorry to hear.
But the siblings decided while they were all still alive, since they're all getting older, that when they were approached, that maybe it was the time to go ahead and sell it, so they did.
Okay. Well, hopefully they'll be in front of us and we'll welcome them with open arms. I think that'd be a great addition to the town.
Well, I hope for us, it's not gonna be anything that would disappoint us either, because like I've said all along, I want a community still that I am interested in still living in. I've always been interested in what our community is becoming.
Try and do the best we can.
You're doing a good job, all of you.
Appreciate that. At this time, we'll open up for 5-minute town council comments. Again, this is on any topic or anything you'd like to mention. So I will open it up. Dr. Price.
I will pass.
Okay. Mr. Gooding.
Pass.
Mr. Jones.
I'm good.
Dr. Burney.
I wanted to speak for a minute or two about the comprehensive plan. I think Ryan has emailed copies of the latest draft to everybody, and it's getting down towards its final form. I took the opportunity to read through that, and there's a few things in there that I personally disagree with as far as plans for the future of our town. And I brought this up to Ryan, and I also thought that it was sort of lacking specific input as to what we've actually accomplished recently and what we're planning to do in the near future. Some of those things aren't really in there, and considerations for other things that we might want to think about that we've worked on are things like affordable housing, enhancements to public transportation, whether or not we want to be any industrial or whether we want to be all residential. And all these things I think need input, and there's also, you know, some scoring of things as to which comes first and which is most important, kind of a tier system. And I kind of thought that the town council ought to rank them rather than the planners writing the report. Anyhow, I brought these up to Ryan, and he scheduled a meeting, I think, for Thursday, beginning at noon. Might be somewhat lengthy, but it's kind of an appeal for any of you all to come and attend and input to the extent that you will, because I'm just one person, one opinion, and I think it needs many, and I think we can make it better. It's an important planning document, so hopefully see a few of you at noon on Thursday. I think Greg's going to come.
Well, we can't have it more than two of us. So if anybody else wants to attend, let me know. You're more than welcome to take my place. That will not be a public meeting. That's an internal discussion. So yeah, there'll be at least two council. Cannot have more than two council members there, but definitely interested in hearing Dr. Burney's opinion. Again, it's a work in progress. That comprehensive plan's taken a lot of input. Unfortunately, because of the process, it gets to the point where we as the council don't get, how the time frame and all that, how it works.
Let me ask our legal counsel how closely we're held to that standard of no more than two, or something like giving input for the comprehensive plan before a final draft is made.
So what the open door requires and what the Public Access Council has been very consistent with is if you have a quorum of your council and you are either discussing or receiving information that is pertinent to the town and the town's business, that qualifies as a meeting, because its official action includes the receipt of information even. So I would say in a situation like this, the Public Access Council would absolutely say that if you have three, that would need to be advertised as a public meeting.
Mr. Price and Mr. Gooding, you guys have been presented at Plan Commission, correct?
I wasn't there.
So you haven't seen it?
Yes.
You've seen it,
Yes.
right? Scott, you probably
I've
have.
had a chance to review.
You have?
I've went through it.
You've read it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, please give your input.
give
Ryan
input to
if you have
Dr. Bernie or myself, or if you want to attend, let me know so that I'm not there and one of you guys can attend.
Yeah.
Okay, you can attend.
If I could just plug real quick, sorry. Just the key here is this document cannot change after it leaves the Plan Commission with a recommendation and comes to you. If you make changes, let me rephrase that, you can make changes after it leaves the Plan Commission,
Okay.
but it has to then be sent back to the Plan Commission, which means you're going backwards 30 days to the next Plan Commission meeting, and then you're forwarding it back to the Town Council, hopefully the very next month. But at a minimum, if it goes back to the Plan Commission after they've already given a recommendation, we're a minimum of pushing this out 60 days. So ideally, if you have comments, we'd like to get them now, get them addressed by next Tuesday, the 15th, because then we can have a document that we know has everyone's input, get a recommendation from the Plan Commission, bring it forth to you in May, and hopefully adopt. If not, it's going back then to Plan Commission in July and coming back to you in August.
And my understanding is that we need that plan, because comprehensive plan updated so that we can update our zoning standards.
Correct. We can do them somewhat simultaneously, but the least that we're doing those parallel, the better.
Okay. All right, Dr. Bernie, I'll yield more time to you.
No, that's all I have to say.
Okay. All right, I got one thing. It was brought up, and it's kind of pertinent since Prosecutor Eaton was here tonight. I want to give a big hearty congratulations, and this is because I'm on the Zoe's Place board. But Dr. Parker and the Mount Vernon School Corporation staff, the Mount Vernon Education Foundation, and other entities associated with the school corporation came together, raised about a little over $1,500 and donated it to Zoe's Place. And I have to give a kudos to Katie Molander, the director. She reached out to Dr. Parker about 3 months ago and asked him to come out and do a tour. He brought a couple of administrators, and they did a tour, and he was so enthralled and was just overwhelmed with what the mission was. He then had teachers and guidance counselors also do a tour. And because of that outreach and understanding what the mission is, we have more community people who are associated with that, and now they're willing to support it financially. So I know Chief Casey and his department support that organization, and I know we have in the past, and I just wanted to kind of give a public thank you, great job, and I know it's appreciative both by the board of directors and the staff at Zoe's Place. So that's all I had. All right, Larry Longman's favorite thing. Gonna get an approval of the vouchers.
Move that we approve the vouchers.
Second?
There's been a first and second to approve the vouchers. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Passes 5-0. Next meeting will be May 13th, 2025 at 6 p.m. This meeting is adjourned.